The New York Mets are 100 games into the season. We got 62 more to go. Over the weekend at Citi Field, the Mets ugly baseball, losing 2 out of 3 to the Cincinnati Reds, but avoiding that sweep on Sunday. You're watching Mets Daily. I'm your host, Jake Brown. Smash that thumbs up on this video. Please subscribe to the channel below and become a Mets Daily insider by scanning that QR code. It's just $5 a month. You can see our exclusive members only weekend video from inside Citi Field. Terry Collins walked right by me as we did the video. So check that out. Me and my buddy Eric right after the David Wright ceremony, which was beautiful. You know, I shed a tear. I thought having the kids there was awesome. His son Brooks getting the matching jacket as he enters the Mets Hall of Fame. I thought the rain coming down while the sun was shining was poetic. It described David Wright. It described the tears coming down as he's crying, but also like a guy who was all smiles, who had a legendary career, but had flaws. The guy he got hurt. The back got the best of him. And as the sun was shining, Wright made the best of it, of powering through the struggles that he had. And it was truly poetic that rarely does it ever rain while it's sunny out. And that was the perfect day for it to happen. So congratulations to number 5 going to the Raptors. Had a great time Saturday, at least for that part. The game itself sucked on Saturday. Listen, Luis Torrens, what the hell were you doing with that throw to first? I did not understand that. The 9th inning, Juan Soto. I mean, has a guy ever got screwed over more than one at bat? First off, how the hell did the catcher get time? The clock was hitting 0. That should have been ball 4. Then he hits the foul home run, and then he gets called for a strikeout on what clearly was, he did check his swing. And he got screwed over 3 times in one at bat. And then, Alonso flies out. Alonso doesn't start Sunday, comes in the game as a defensive replacement, keeps his streak alive with the hand contusion. I guess he's fine. I guess he got treatment on it, and they felt fine and put him in there. So that was intriguing. Sunday, Juan Soto heads up base running in the 8th inning there. Diaz comes in the 8th, blows it with, command issues, a walk, hit by pitch. Lindor, not really a sense of urgency getting that ball on the grounder and throwing it first, but it was going to be a tough play anyway. Stanek shutting the door after, Soto did score that run, heads up base running, because that ball was hit hard. And if he didn't have that big secondary lead, he probably didn't score there. So good job by Soto. Good win Sunday. But Friday and Saturday were ugly. Alex Carrillo coming in on a 2-1 lead. I've talked about it on here. Carlos Mendoza is a good manager. That was a terrible decision. And he's made a little bit too many of those decisions where he's putting trust in guys who have had a cup of coffee in the big leagues. And part of that's because the injuries. I understand that. Like, maybe it's on David Stearns, who I did meet eyes with Saturday. I did say hello. He said, hey, he gave me a longer look, which made me feel like he does know I exist, know who I am. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just thinking too much of myself. But he did give me a longer look than he would give the average person as he walked by. So, I wanted to speak my mind and say, I hope you're aggressive at the deadline and say something, but, we'd like to have him on the show at some point, so I didn't want a bad blood there. And I do like David Stearns. Listen, I think he's done a great job. I think he's gotten screwed by a lot of season-ending injuries here, but now these next 10 days, 10 days in Flushing coming on SNY, these next 10 days we find out how aggressive David Stearns will be, and, you heard some boo Saturday from the fans. Fans were pissed off, because they want to get back to the team that was the best team in baseball, not the team that was 10-20 in their last 30. So hopefully they can keep it rolling here against the Angels who come to town. Mike Trout this week. You got Kodai Sang on the hill tonight, WWE night at Citi Field. But it was not a pretty weekend. Friday and Saturday were not pretty. Sunday, you scratched one out. But, this team's got to play more consistent baseball. Brooks Raley, that's a positive from the weekend. Looked fantastic on Saturday. His off-speed stuff is filthy. He's going to be a key part of this pen, but they need to get more. Griffin Jax is another name that's come up, today and yesterday from the Minnesota Twins. The Mets got to start thinking about control past this year for a closer, because Edwin Diaz is probably opting out. I don't really envision, David Stearns paying him $100 million on a deal. So Mets got to start thinking about a closer. That's why you're seeing closers come up with control for a couple of years, like a Duran from the Twins, like a Clase, like maybe a Mason Miller, names that we'll talk about all week and next week. You got to start thinking about that, because, you're seeing some ugly middle relief from these Mets. And Reed Garrett is just overtaxed, overused, and He has struggled. And then enough with Alex Carrillo and Waddell, like these minor league arms. Like, you're not going to win with those guys. And during a playoff push, you got to be serious here. You might win with Francisco Alvarez back. And again, follow me at Jake Brown Live, as you saw in that graphic below, and become a Mets Daily Insider and share this channel. He's back. The boys are back in town. 11 homers in his last 19 games. Francisco Alvarez in AAA was having a home run derby down there, and it was time for him to come up. The Mets need a spark, and, it shows you what they thought. I think of Hayden Sanger. Luis Torrens played all weekend. He didn't get a day off. Torrens in the line. He hit a little bit, but you need Alvarez back. And Alvarez, you hope that, I tweeted kind of jokingly but serious, like, stay away from Eric Chavez. Just, don't even have a conversation with Eric Chavez. Keep doing what you were doing in AAA, because that's the guy the Mets signed up for at the big league level that they got at the minor league level. It's a guy who could hit you 25 to 30 homers, and he got away from that. He didn't look like the guy with power. Now you hope the mojo carries over. I'd love to see him in the lineup tonight and hit one out of here. Would love to see one off Anderson, the lefty. Would love to see Alvarez homer in his first game back and keep those positive vibes going, because that is a bat, the bottom of this order. We've talked about how bad this Mets bottom of the order is. Well, Francisco Alvarez is a guy you can place in there, and if he can hit you, a homer or two every week and have some extra base hits, that changes the dynamic of this lineup completely. So I'm excited to have Alvarez back. We'll see what he is. Is he a power? Does he have his confidence back, or does he go back to his old ways? Because it wasn't just the offense that was the problem. It was the defense. He was making mental errors, throwing to different bases and, wild pitches and maybe calling for the wrong pitch. Alvarez was doing everything wrong here, and you hope that this reset, both mentally and physically, and his play will be completely different now in this second go-around this season with the New York Mets, because this is a guy that was touted as the face of the franchise, at least at the catcher position, and they don't have anyone else. Luis Torrens is a backup, and Hayden Sanger's a minor leaguer. They got no one else. Everyone, like we talked about with Ernest Dove last week, is like 19 years old in rookie ball. Like, they're all 5 years away. They got no other catcher. So over these next 10 days, they have to evaluate Alvarez closely, and he's going to be watched with a close eye, because like I talked about on here, the Mets got to think about catcher in depth. They got to think about Austin Wynns from the Athletic. They got to think about if Langoliers became available. They have got to go get a catcher. If Alvarez comes up here and craps the bed, they need help. They can't just keep trotting him out there because he's their guy. No. You got to hit now. It's showtime. It's showtime at the Apollo minus the Kiki Shepherds, in the words of Luda. So I expect Alvarez to be a rejuvenated player at this point. The Mets can be a rejuvenated lineup where they haven't got much out of center field if they go out and get Steven Quan. Now, that is a name that has been rumored the last couple of days as the Guardians, pretty much are out of it. Again, like I've said, the mediocrity in the American League is keeping a lot of teams believing they're in it. The Royals, who are 5.5 out of the wild card, traded last week for Adam Frazier to try to get a lineup boost. You would think they're out of it, but if they're making a trade for a player and trading a prospect, maybe they think they're in it, and everyone thinks they're in it. The fourth place Rays, a game and a half out. The fourth place Royals, 5.5 games out. The fourth place Angels, 4 games out. So you have 4, 8, 12 of the 15 teams in the American League believe that they can make the playoffs. That's not good, because those teams have some players you'd want. The Royals have Seth Lugo. The Twins we talk about, Griffin Jacks, Danny Coulomb, Duran, Varland, Joe Ryan. They got a lot. The Guardians, Clase, they're 4.5 back, and Steven Quan. If I'm the Mets, I call the Guardians for Steven Quan. You see the numbers there. He was an all-star, 285, 6 homers, 32 RBIs. This is a guy that you can put right atop the lineup. You can move Nimmo to the 5 hole, have Quan lead off, Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, then however you want to do it, Vientos, Alvarez. The lineup immediately becomes so much better if you can get Quan. Now, listen, he has not played many games in center field. Now, you could move Nimmo back to center. I don't know how much the Mets want to do that. He's played 8 games in center field total. Now, Jeff McNeil played 0 coming into the season. So I don't know how much the Mets should look into, can this guy play center? Because Jeff McNeil's done just a fine job playing center. He's actually been pretty good in center. So there's no reason that a career left fielder in Steven Quan, 480 games left, 20 in right, 8 in center, can't move over to center. And there's no reason, Nimmo can't. It probably wouldn't be their smartest thing with his foot issues, but there's no reason he couldn't either. If I'm the Mets and you're taking the center field search seriously, I'm looking at this guy, Steven Quan, and going after him and going to the Garden and say, hey, what'll it take to get him? Because that's a guy under team control for a bunch of years here, and he automatically makes your lineup just so much better. Quan has 2 more years of arbitration after this, which means he'll be pretty affordable the next couple of years, and he's 27 years old to be 28 in September. Still young, prime of his career, financially almost cost nothing. Go get me Steven Quan, a guy that can steal you 20 bags as well. His on-base percentage is .345. He's got a career 357 OBP. Hit the Quan. Go get Quan. Go follow me at Jake Brown Live on all social. Smash that thumbs up. Comment below. Do you want Steven Quan? What trade do you want to do? Let us know. We'll be back tomorrow. Mets Daily. Mets Angels tonight. Kodai sang on the mound. Angels coming to town. It's a fun series in Queens. Hopefully the Mets could get a win streak going. They won Sunday. Let's make it 2 in a row tonight at Citi Field. Thanks for watching, everyone. Shout out to Captain America David Wright, and catch me on the Pix 11 Plus app and YouTube today, tomorrow with my old co-host Nelson Figueroa doing a guest spot on Pix 11. We'll tweet that out at Jake Brown Live and at Mets Daily Show on X. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let's go Mets.